Hello, this is Scott with Arcasaur Tabletop. I'm also the game master, dungeon master, or storyteller for Arcasaur RPG. We're kind of starting to move away from the whole D&D stuff. We're still playing it until we can get our own system up, but currently we are still working on 5th edition for the meantime. But right now, I just want to go on ahead and show you our open source role playing system that we have made. This is so that you can take this and make whatever you want with it. Um, doesn't require any licensing or crediting, and you can take whoever wants to use it can take it, build whatever they want, and it can be something you can release for free or sell. It is completely up to you. So it is called the Arcasaur Open Role Playing System, or AORPS for short. This is just a resource document that you can use. I'm going ahead and zoom out so you can go on ahead and see more of the page. And this is just an interesting image that I had made, and yeah, I decided to keep it. Anyway, so here are the releases. Hello and thank you for your interest in using our open source system to create your next role playing game. In this document, you will find a backbone for a simple D20 role playing system that you can create with. This system is copyright free and can be used for non-commercial as well as commercial systems. We have seen what other companies and creators have been doing and decided to throw our leaf to the wind in hopes to help those that are looking for either make content to start their own game from near scratch. This core set of rules is under no license and will remain that way. You, as the user of this document, have no legal obligation to Arcasaur Tabletop or any of its future subsidiaries for use of this for your own works, and no attribution is required. Arcasaur Tabletop will not be held liable for content created by third parties' use of this document. Any and all creations made through the use of this document are solely the property of the copyright of the user. If any users wishes to show gratitude to us, Arcasaur Tabletop, for the creation of this document, they are welcome to donate to our website, www.arcasaurtt.com, through the donation link found where this document is published to help keep servers up and running, although donations are not required. If you have purchased this document outside of www.arcasaurtt.com/AORPS, you have been scammed, as this core rule set is free. Please be sure to report the seller for fraud. Added this in the end of the releases, which is, and if you're a multi-million-dollar corporation that has a name that rhymes with Hasbroke, or are some old farts practicing dark arts on the coast, you cannot use this document. So, and then now enough legal stuff. Let's get to meat and potatoes. So, we have, starting here, part 1, the core rules. The most exciting thing about the role-playing experience is interacting with the world it takes place in. In order to accomplish this, the players and game master must need to understand the principles of this system. When a player wishes to interact with the world around them, they can, at the game master's discretion, make a roll to determine the outcome of that action. Whenever this occurs, the game master can assign a difficulty to the task, also known as a difficulty rating, or DR. You can also call it challenge rating, CR, but we call it DR just to make sure that there's no confusion with other systems. The player must use their skills or main attributes to determine the outcome of these tasks and see if they failed or succeeded. Then I have an example of 3 players and 1 game master GM that are playing a session, and the players come across a river with no other way to cross. The nearest bridge destroyed. The players have to cross it by swimming. And it has a little thing of, you approach a river, the water rushing by, you see the bridge has been destroyed, whether by age or by purposeful demolition, you're not sure. Player, how big is the river? Looks pretty wide, give me a nature check. So on and so forth. It ends up leading to one of the party members getting brushed downstream. or brushdown river, because he fails a strength check. You tie a rope around your waist and then jump into the river. I'll need you to make an athletics check, player 3. You need a 15 to make it across. Player rolls a d20, resulting in a rolled 3, adding their attribute modifier of 5 to get a disappointing 8. Crap, it's an 8. You are swept away by the current. You take no damage, but you are now 30 feet away from your companions and have only made it to the middle of the river. So in the example, you see that the players wanted information pertaining to the river and to see if at least one of them can get across it. A good roll can have favorable results, but sometimes the dice gods keep the good times in check and make the game interesting. I know that seems all too simple, but that's just the system to be simple, easy to learn, and above all, usable by everybody. As we get into the next section, we will look at character sheets and how show a simple example layout for you to use building your own system, and the explanation above will make more sense. Part 2, character sheets section by section. Since we looked at a small section of role play, we need to discuss the elephant in the room, that elephant being this piece of work here. This is an example. We have the one thing that you can do is you can change all of this. Like, this is just an example of a character sheet. Now, I know this may seem a bit intimidating at first glance, but I assure you this is actually pretty simple. If you wrap your brain around it, let's start from the top. So at the top, you have your character's information, such as character name, level. My table, we don't run EXP, and for this particular system setup, you don't have to run EXP. If you want to add an EXP system to your own version of this, go for it. But we go by the checkpoint system. So you have character name, level, checkpoint, background, race, size, class, and subclass. Checkpoint, instead of using an experience-driven system, the system runs on checkpoints. Each checkpoint is 1 hour of real in-game play, or real-time gameplay. Meaning if you play for 8 hours, you gain 8 checkpoints. This is how you want it is up to how you want your system set up and how many checkpoints it takes for the character to level. The method we use is 4 checkpoints per level until the character reaches level 5. Then the required number of checkpoints doubles to 8. At level 10, it doubles to 16. At level 15, it doubles again to 32. But as a creator of your own world, you can set this up as you see fit. This allows for players to progress in level even if the sessions are roleplay heavy with very little combat. Background, every role-playing system, everyone starts from somewhere. A loyal knight, a smuggler, a traveler, or even a noble. This is the way your character's upbringing. Hold on. I have minor dyslexia. Even though I wrote this, I'm still reading it wrong, and I apologize. This was your character's upbringing and how they got to where they are at the start of the story. Race. In the vast majority of games, you play as different peoples coming together to complete a goal, task, or to save the freaking world. Regardless if you make a high fantasy or sci-fi or modern game, this is pretty standard. Size. Not every character has the same dimension and height. This lets the game master as well as the other players know how tall or lack thereof you are. Class. This is essentially your speciality, the thing that you're good at, be it a gunslinger, a space ranger, or a simple fighter. This is what you're made to do. Subclasses, the specialization of your character's class, like being a monk that can control the elements, or a space engineer that is a saboteur. Depending upon genre and the list you make for this game to use, the possibilities are near infinite. Now we're going to move on to health and armor. Section 2, hit points, baby. Under the character information, you have this piece. Armor rating, hit points, temporary hit points, or temp hit points, hit dice, proficiency, and speed. Again, this might seem self-explanatory for those who have played TTRPGs, but just for giggles, I'm going to explain this. Armor rating. This is the number that needs to be met in order to get past your defenses to hit your character with a physical attack. This is usually governed by the armor you are wearing, your attribute points, more on that later, and your proficiency bonus. Again, more on that later, more on that later, but in this section. Hit points. This is usually governed by your hit dice and your attribute for being and your attribute that being healthy relies on. Usually it's Constitution, but since you can make the system into anything, it's a blank slate. And so it is up to you to come up with attributes that govern health. Each player has a hit point maximum that is determined by the highest number on your character's hit die, which is dependent upon their class plus their healthy modifier. This number goes up with each level, and you get a higher healthy modifier. Number will grow a new +1 times previous level count. If your character reaches level 10, your hit die is a D8. Your Constitution modifier is a +3. 8 plus 3 is 11. But if that's 11 hit points per level. But if on this level up, you were able to bring your Constitution modifier up to a 4, 8 plus 4 is 12. But now you also have to add 9 to the total as well, because the Constitution modifier takes the change retroactively. So 12 plus 9 is 21. Now you have to add 21 points to your maximum health. The other space in the hit points box is for how much current health you have, because there's this little slash here. 10 hit points. As the name implies, this is where you write temporary hit points due to the effect of an in-game mechanic. Hit dice. The hit dice are what your character uses to calculate maximum health. It also allows you to recover health on a short rest by using them to heal. Proficiency. This number is the box. The number that is in this box. There we go. Is added to certain rolls when applicable. The rate of growth is dependent upon the system that they are used in, but standard to AORPS is +1 levels 1 through 4, +2 levels 5 through 9, +3 levels 10 through 14, and +4 levels 15 through 20. Speed. This is how fast your character can move. Movement in combat is usually in 5-foot increments on a grid. So if a character's speed is 30, they can move 6 spaces. Now that that's over, we can get to the easy, okay, it's not so easy part. Section 3. I like attributes and I cannot lie. Here we get to the meat and taters of the system. This part is where, the part where all the crazy talk is starting to make sense. Look at this thing. I mean, seriously, look at it. It took me a while, this area that's right here in your face. It took me a while to actually, figure out how to get this set up so it's not confusing to me. Now, this may seem like a blank bit of nothing, but what if I told you can put things in there that your players can use that make their players interact with your system or your world? This might be a little bit more familiar look. You have strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, your main 6 attributes. Wow. On top of that, you have your skills. Now, I've actually, in our system, we separate it out as each attribute is connected to a set of up to 4 skills. So with strength in this demonstration, strength is tied to athletics, grapple, shove, and throw. Dexterity is to acrobatics, stealth, and sleight of hand. Intelligence is intelligence is arcana, history, investigation, and nature and medicine are rolled kind of into one skill. Wisdom or constitution is willpower, concentration, and resilience. Wisdom, perception, insight, survival, religion, etc. You can fill these in with whatever you want. The character sheet as it comes with the system is meant to be fluid, so you can add anything you want to the skills and attributes. Make it uniquely yours. These have some rules with them, though, and I'll give a brief explanation on how it works. Attributes. Attribute section is where you, as the designer of your own system, can fill in the top section of each box with information that will then dictate what skills they are attached to. Take the early example that is already filled in. Ta-da! In the example, you can see that each set of skills are tied to these main attributes. The character sheet where the skills portion has been left blank, so you can fill in different skills and skill names depending upon genre and personal preference. Your system is a sci-fi RPG. Instead of Arcana, Religion, and Nature, you might use something like Technology, Politics, and Space Navigation. After setting the main attributes and skills, you can then hand off this sheet to your players to fill in the rest of the way themselves. To do this, they can either have their players roll 6d20, which are 20-sided dice, and allocate those numbers to the attributes, or the players can use a standard array setup where you give them a set of numbers that they can choose from, and they can place them in their attributes. Usually these numbers are 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. Once these numbers are filled into the attribute boxes, they move to the circles underneath. These circles are ability score modifiers you attach to the rolls to complete different tasks. Ability score modifiers are pretty simple. Starting with an ability score of 10, the modifier is 0. Going up every 2 points will add a +1 to the modifier attached to the rolls for that ability or skill. If an attribute is under 10, the modifier is -1. And just like that, the positive modifier side, every 2 that you go down is an additional -1. Example is a player has a 16 strength attribute and a 6 in wisdom. Their strength modifier is +3, and their wisdom modifier is -2. By this standard, we can determine that the players have to roll to pass or fail checks with the roll of the dice. A properly filled attribute section to the player's end should look kind of like this. Strength 15, Dex 13, Con 14, Intelligence 12, Wisdom 10, Charisma 8. So that's a +2 to Strength, +1 Dex, +2 Con, +1 Intelligence, a 0 Wisdom, and a -1 Charisma. And if you look at all the little skill boxes, they're all filled with those attributes. Or those attributes plus and minuses. So if this guy goes to roll a sleight of hand, he has a +1. But if he goes to roll an intimidation, it's in a negative. So that's kind of the way it works. These attributes can be further augmented by racial traits, backgrounds, and even classes, subclass modifiers. Although those are up to how you want your system to run. Next, we'll look at the space reserved for spells and techniques. Section 4. Is that mana in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? In this section, we'll look at this piece of the sheet, the spells and techniques portion. You can change these out. You can call it whatever you want, but right now on this character sheet, it's just called spells and techniques. Although the name is not really important and can be changed to fit your own material, this part of the character sheet lets your player know how many mana points they have, how many they have to use, and how many they have used in a short list of spells or techniques they have on hand. This list can be further expanded and in a separate character sheet that you can call the spell tech sheet. Spell sheet, technique sheet, technological prowess sheet, whatever you want to call it. The way you calculate how much mana your character has, quote unquote mana, your player's character has, you take their spellcasting modifier, which we've looked at in this section. So let's say, like with this guy, his spellcasting modifier, let's say he was a wizard, which would be intelligence. That's +1. That's pretty sad. But still, okay. The way you calculate this is you take their spellcasting modifier, add their player level, and times it by 2. For example, if you look at the previous section, let's say a wizardy kind of character, the casting ability, let's say, is off of intelligence, int for short, which is a 1. as I said. And let's say their level is 5. So 1 plus 5 is 6. Take that number, times it by 2. 6 times 2 is 12. The result is that the character has 12 mana points. The player then would fill in 12 of the dots. I don't see my cursor. Where did my cursor go? There it is. 12 of the dots that are in this section here. Once you have what you need to know what spell level they can select spells from. This is entirely up to you, as you are the one using this document to make your own system. Come up with a list of spells that each casting class can use. And it's okay to overlap some of the spells into other classes. When calculating what spell level they can use, again, this is up to how you set your system up. What I use is a breakdown of a simple chart that goes by level as demonstrated below. Casters at level 1 have cantrips, basically spells that they have on hand that don't require any mana points to cast. Level 2 is 1, the spell level 1, 3 is spell level 1, 4 is spell level 2, 5 is spell level 2, 6 is spell level 3, 7 is spell level 3, 8 is 4, 9 is 4, 10 is 5, 11 is 5, 12 is 6, 13 is 6, 14 is 7, 15 is 7, 16 is 8, 17 is 8, 18 is 9, 19 is 9, and 20 is 9. That basically means that at level 18, that spellcasting player can have a mix of up to level 9 spells. This isn't how many spells that they have, but what spell level that they can, what is the max spell level that they can actually use. All that is left is how many spells are at their disposal. This is calculated by adding the character's level to their spellcasting modifier and multiplying that by their proficiency modifier. Meaning if the character is a level 5 caster, and is built like the last example, 5 plus 1 is 6, then let's say they have 5, and let's say at level 5 their proficiency is plus 2, they would have 12 spells at their disposal. 12 spells that they can add to their spell list. Once you determine what level a player can cast at, the last thing to keep in mind is that when casting spells, you draw from your mana points. And this is simple. If you cast a spell at level 1, the caster puts an X or any marking of their choice in the square below 1 dot to denote the spent mana point. If casting at level 3, if casting a level 3 spell, 3 of the boxes need to be marked in, and so forth. 4 for 4, 5 for 5, 6 for 6, and so on. And that's these little boxes below the circles here. Yeah. So that was actually much simpler to explain than the attributes section. So let's go on ahead and look at skills. Skills, abilities, whatever you want to call it. Section 5, the skills to pay the bills. Why the horrible puns? I don't know. This part of the character sheet, it doesn't say skills, it says abilities, but you can call it skills if you want to. In all honesty, this section is by far the second easiest part to explain. Some classes and races, depending upon how you make your role-playing system, have some abilities that come with them. This could be how many times a barbarian can rage, how many times a cleric can use their holy symbol to drive away undead, or even how many times a marksman can use a called shot ability, giving them the upper hand for 1 round. All you, the creator, need to do, I should have put needs to do, is come up with fun, interesting abilities for your players to utilize in their character options. Next section is going to be a breeze, how your character can see things. Section 6, I can see clearly now, the rain is shot. Player characters have this little section in their sheet. Senses. This tells the player and the game master how they see the world, and this usually is covered by what race they pick. Each one is different, and here's how they work. Vision, normal sight, blind in the dark outside of 5 feet, totally blind in magic darkness. Low light vision, can see in the dark, but only in shades of gray and black. Magic darkness is still a problem. Blind sight, much like echolocation, you don't need to see to tell where things are. You are not hampered by any visual impairment as far as distance and location is concerned. Tremor sense, you can feel the vibrations of things through your feet and can tell their location and distance, not hampered by blindness. True sight, you can see everything, visible things, invisible things into different realities, and even through magic generated disguises. The range portion is how far you can see before you lose detail. This is usually capped at around 120 feet. Now on to the last part, inventory and equipment. Section 7, do you even lift? In this section, we will look at the equipment and inventory sections. Let's start with this one. Here's your main equipment. In this area, the player puts what they have immediately on hand, such as weapons, shield, equipped armor, and accessories. The weapons section has enough space for up to 4 weapons, 2 offhand and 2 primary, so your character can have 2 equipment sets ready to go, rather than digging through your inventory and then reading through a list and all that stuff. In the armor and accessories, you have the spot of what armor they have equipped. My brain can't even comprehend words right now, I apologize. If they have a shield, mark an X if that is applicable. In the area for the armor rating bonus included with the shield. Okay, hold on. If they have a shield, mark an X if this is applicable. There's a little thing here. With an area for the armor rating bonus is included with the shield. You just write it into the armor rating, plus what. Then you have the accessory slots where the players can write in the accessory name and bonuses applicable to the character. Character can only equip / attune to 4 accessories at a time. You also have this little space next to it, inventory. Simply put, this is the space where your character writes the stuff they are lugging around, including spaces for money. Again, this is a template and can be modified. Feel free to change the names of the money. Example, if your system is more of a modern sci-fi, then change the coin value names to like credits or galactic bucks. Now that we're done with that, we can move on to the next part, combat and movement. So that was all just for the character sheet. Combat and movement. In most role-playing games, the player might need to settle things in combat when all other avenues fail. Some are done in the theater of the mind setting, while the storyteller tells the player what's going on. Or where the storyteller tells the player what's going on, painting a word picture of the area and placement of characters and enemies. But the mainstay of role-playing games, this is done through a battle map, using tokens or miniatures to represent player characters, enemies, and placement of objects and structures. Yeah. We will be covering the latter style of combat. When the players have reached a point where combat is the only option, the players and enemies are placed in their starting positions on a gridded battle map. The grid can be either squares or hexagons. You can follow along with the example below of a wolf pack attack in the forest. You have 3 characters and 6 wolves. The players are now surrounded by 6 wolves. Each player and the storyteller then roll a 20-sided die to calculate who goes first. This is called an initiative. To calculate your character's initiative, roll a d20 and add your modifier that handles agility. Whoever has the highest roll goes first, the second highest goes second, third highest goes third, and so on. The storyteller can either roll 1 initiative for all enemies, which is known as group initiative. Otherwise, they can be rolled individually, taking more time but making the game feel more natural and flow. In this example, the wolves have a group initiative and have the highest roll. There are 4 phases to combat per character enemy turn. Movement, action, bonus action, free action. Let's go over the 4 phases in detail. Movement. Each grid space is calculated in 5 feet. Players and enemies can move diagonally and only count the move as 5 feet. This means that if a creature or player has a speed of 30 and they can move 6 spaces for their movement. Some players and enemies can have less speed or more movement speed than others. Other movement also, sorry, not other, but also movement can be done before and even after the other phases, such as moving 5 feet to attack an enemy with an action, felling them, and then moving another 10 feet to the next enemy. Actions. The action phase can be used to do a plethora of things: attack an enemy, manipulate an object, try to reason with an enemy or creature, or cast a spell, among other choices. Bonus action. A bonus action can be used to offhand attack an enemy, cast certain spells, drink a potion, and other things dependent upon what is allowed in the system you create. And then free action. Can be something minor, like calling to your allies to inform of a weak point / weakness that the enemy has. It can also be used as a minor item manipulation, like picking up a small rock to throw as a distraction, etc. Since the wolves have initiative, they move into the party to attack. So these wolves move in. These other wolves start moving in. These wolves have all moved 10 feet, but one of the wolves decided to take a slight trajectory and move 15. When an enemy attacks a player character or vice versa, the attacker rolls a d20 and adds their attribute modifier that corresponds with their attack. If it is a spell that the player or enemy is using that has an area of effect, anyone caught in the radius will be subject to this spell's effects. With this final example, you can see that after one full round of combat, the players took some damage but remained standing, while three of the wolves did not get the same fortune. As you can see, 3 of the wolves are now dead. Combat continues in this fashion until either the player or enemy is wiped out, or the conflict is resolved, whether that be through words, reason, or the enemy or party fleeing. This sums up the basis of combat and movement. You can feel free to alter this for your own game's needs. 4. Adding things to your world. This is where you'll probably spend most of your time creating, adding armor and equipment and items and monsters and people and places and worlds to your system. Below are a few templates with examples that are self-explanatory and only need to be filled in with what you think is right for your system. I'm actually going to zoom in so you can take a good look at this. So, like with this one, this is an enemy NPC template that I just very quickly and easily threw together. And on the right, you can see I have filled it in as an example. So you have like a skeleton, size medium, threat 1/2, race, no race type, undead, language, understands common, description, an undead skeleton wearing the armor that it died in, armor rating 12, has 8 hit points, no temporary hit points, has 2d6 plus 2 hit die if you wanted to roll their health, and a speed of 30, has this set of stats, has an ability that is called Undead Resilience, and can roll a d6 when it hits 0 HP. If the roll is a 6, it only drops to 1. And the skeleton has 2 attack actions per turn, one with its sword, one with its shield, and it gives you all that information there. It's rather simple to write in and get all that set up. An equipment template, equipment templates, item templates. If you download the document yourself, you can go on ahead and read it over, look it over, and figure out what you want to have done with it. Also a spell technique template. The cost would essentially be the level of the spell. So, name, Bolt of Flame, cost 1, requirements, verbal somatic, casting time, 1 action, duration, instant, concentration, no. Components, a piece of amber not consumed by the spell, effect with a piece of amber in your hand, and a simple incantation. You launch a bolt of flame at an opponent, make a ranged spell attack. On hit, the target takes 1d6 plus spell modifier and damage. You could even have cost 0. That's a cantrip. Using these templates, you can fill your world with all sorts of things, all sorts of interesting things, people and creatures. The lore and the rest, like deities, races, classes, subclasses, and other features, to add to your game is up to how you want them to work. So feel free to look at other systems and even systems made with this backbone to give you inspiration. And now we're down to part 5, which is the very end of the document, which is part 5. It is now up to you. Thank you for sticking around for so long and giving this a look. We hope you're able to go out there and create something amazing with this document. We here at Arcasaur Tabletop are more than happy to share this with the world. Now it's up to you. Make more memories, more stories, more epic adventures. Bring together communities and be a reprieve to those who want to escape the drama of reality, what we tend to trudge through day by day. Oh, and above all else, share this document, turn people to our website to download this. We need to see a world of new creations and more people interested in creating new experiences. So keep adventuring, my friends. And yeah, here's the example character sheet that is fully printable from this document. So you can go on ahead and play test your own stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's AORPS. And we hope that some people will come over to our website, arcasaurt.com / AORPS, and give it a look-see. You can download it for free. As we said, donations are welcome, but they're not required. So again, this has been Scott with Arcasaur Tabletop, and thank you for taking a moment to listen to me ramble about our little backbone document that you can use to make your own role-playing system.